The city was broken. Its tall buildings, once full of life, now stood silent, their windows shattered, walls crumbling, and streets covered in dust and metal. Lucas walked carefully through the wreckage, his boots crunching over broken glass and debris. He was the only human in this part of the colony, sent by command to check for survivors and damaged tech that could still be useful. The colony had been attacked 2 weeks ago. Nobody knew who the attackers were. Some said it was a rogue alien group, others said it was a mistake in diplomacy. But none of that mattered to Lucas. He had a job check every zone and report what he found. He held a scanner in one hand and a flashlight in the other. His gear was simple, but enough. His ears were filled with a soft hum of static from his earpiece. Nothing moved. No voices, no creatures, no machines. Just the wind blowing through broken windows. He turned a corner and entered what used to be a school building. The walls were full of cracked drawings and faded words in both human and alien languages. Chairs were scattered everywhere. He paused, taking in the silence. Then he heard it. A soft sound, like something scraping against metal. He froze. The scanner didn't pick up anything, but his ears did. He moved quietly, careful not to make noise. He followed the sound down the hallway, stepping over broken furniture and chunks of wall. The noise came again, closer this time. Something or someone was definitely there. He found a room with its door halfway open. He pushed it gently. The light from his flashlight swept across the room, revealing dust, shadows, and a collapsed bookshelf behind it. Something moved. Lucas narrowed his eyes. A pair of golden eyes stared back at him from the dark. His breath caught in his throat. The creature was small, no taller than a child. Its ears were long and pointed, sticking out from a mess of silver-white hair. Its eyes glowed softly, and a long tail curled behind it, flicking slowly. It was a girl, an alien girl. She had cat-like features, but her face was soft and curious. She looked thin and scared. Her clothes were torn and dirty. Her arms were wrapped around her knees as she crouched behind the rubble. Lucas didn't move. He didn't. Want to scare her? Hey, he said gently, lowering his flashlight. I'm not going to hurt you. She didn't speak, just stared at him. Are you hurt? He asked. No reply. Her tail twitched again. Lucas took off his helmet slowly to show his face. I'm human. My name's Lucas. I'm here to help. The girl didn't answer. She didn't run either. That was a good sign. He knelt down, keeping some distance. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small energy bar, unwrapped it and placed it on the floor, then slid it gently toward her. It's food, said. The girl didn't move at first. Then, slowly, she crawled a little closer and sniffed the bar. After a long moment, she picked it up and ate it in small, careful bites. Lucas smiled softly. There you go. You must be starving. She looked at him again, still silent. Her ears twitched toward the ceiling, and then suddenly the air changed. A deep humming filled the city. Lucas's blood went cold. Sirens, a loud alarm, blared across the ruins' lawn, rising tones that meant only one thing. Danger was coming. Something was approaching from orbit. He grabbed his scanner. Signals spiked. Something big. Before he could move, the girl leapt forward. To his surprise, she didn't run away. She jumped into his arms. Lucas stumbled back slightly as she wrapped her arms tightly around his chest. Her small body trembled. She buried her face into his suit, her tail wrapping around his side like a ribbon. He stood still, shocked for a moment, then held her gently. It's okay, he said, trying to keep his voice calm. We need to find shelter. Come on. He carried her through the rubble, back toward the lower levels of the building. The old underground storage rooms were safer. He moved quickly, scanning for movement. Explosions echoed far in the distance, rumbling like thunder. When he reached a safe room, he closed the thick metal door and turned on a soft light. It was dusty and cold, but safe. He set her down gently on a pile of old blankets. She still held onto his arm. Lucas sat beside her. You're all right now, he whispered. No one's going to hurt you. Her ears twitched again. Her eyes slowly blinked. She was still scared, but her body stopped shaking. Lucas opened his bag and gave her a small bottle of water. She drank. Carefully, her tail still wrapped around her legs. He watched her, wondering who she was. What was her name? Where was her family? Was she the only one left? Can you understand me? He asked softly. She looked up and nodded just once. Lucas let out a breath. Good. We'll stay here for a while, then we'll figure things out. Together. The girl leaned against his shoulder, eyes half closed, and for the first time since arriving at the colony, Lucas didn't feel alone. Lucas woke up to the sound of soft breathing. For a moment he forgot where he was, and the cold floor, the dim light, and the smell of dust reminded him. He was still inside the ruined colony. Beside him, curled up like a kitten, was the alien girl. She had fallen asleep sometime during the night, holding onto his jacket. Her silver hair covered part of her face. Her ears twitched slightly as she slept. Lucas didn't move. He didn't want to wake her. He watched her quietly and tried to understand her. What had she seen? What had she lost? Her people were probably caught in the first attack. Maybe they didn't even know why it happened. She looked young, maybe 12 or 13 by human guess. But she wasn't fully human. Her features were soft, but her tail, sharp ears, and claw-like fingers showed something different. Something alien, yet familiar. Lucas finally moved his hand slowly and reached for his bag. He pulled out a small snack and water bottle. The sound made her ears flick and her eyes opened. Golden, bright, and full of caution. Hey, he whispered, giving her a soft smile. You're safe. It's just me. She looked around quickly, then relaxed when she saw no danger. She sat up and stretched. Her tail moved slowly, lazily brushing the floor. Lucas offered her food. She took it, this time with no fear. You need a name? He said. I don't know what to call you. She didn't speak, just watched him while chewing. How about Nari? He asked. She blinked. Her ears lifted slightly. Then she gave a small nod. Lucas smiled. Okay, Nari, it is. They sat together in silence for a while. Then Lucas took out a small tablet from his bag and turned it on. The screen flickered. He opened a notepad and started drawing. First he drew a stick figure of himself, and a smaller one with cat ears and a tail. He pointed at the first one. Lucas. Then the second. Nari. She tilted her head. Then, with one clawed finger, she drew something too. It looked like a star and 2 moons, maybe a symbol of her home or her family. Lucas looked at her. Can you speak? Down, then finally whispered something in a soft, shaky voice. Nari. Lucas smiled again. You said it. Good job. Nari looked up, a little surprise in her eyes. Her lips curved up a tiny bit. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. They spent the day inside the shelter. Lucas fixed a small heater and gave her his coat to keep warm. He showed her how to use the flashlight, the scanner, and even the cum device. She listened carefully, always curious, always watching. When she touched something new, she sniffed it first, then tapped it gently with her claws. Lucas could see she was smart. It's not just surviving, but learning. Later, while checking the scanner, Lucas found a weak energy signal nearby. It wasn't strong, but it could be a power source, maybe a working terminal. He looked at Nari. We need to check it out, he said. But only if you're okay with that. Nari stood up and nodded. Her tail flicked once. She was ready. They left the shelter together, moving quietly through the ruins. Nari moved like a shadow, silent, graceful. She avoided sharp metal, ducked under low beams, and used her tail to balance on broken floors.
Ow.
Lucas was impressed. She moved like she had lived in this place for years. They reached the location. An old storage room under a collapsed office building. Lucas pried open the metal door and stepped inside. A faint blue light blinked from the corner. A terminal was still working, powered by a backup cell. Lucas rushed to it and began typing. Come on, give me something, he muttered. The screen flickered and opened. He found logs, maps, and an old cum signal. It had sent an SOS during the first attack. No reply ever came. I can try to boost it, he told Nari. Maybe someone will hear us. Nari wandered around the room, sniffing and listening. Then suddenly her ears perked up. She hissed. Lucas turned around quickly. What is it? Nari pointed toward the ceiling. Lucas listened. Faint sounds. Mechanical. Clicking. A drone. He cursed under his breath and pulled her down behind a cabinet. The scanner confirmed an enemy recon drone was nearby. Searching, Nara looked scared, but she didn't freeze. She crawled to a broken vent and motioned for Lucas to follow. He squeezed in behind her, and they moved through the tight space. Breathing slowly, the drone passed above them, scanning the area then. It moved on. They waited 5 minutes before crawling out. Lucas sighed in relief. That was close. Nari gave a small nod. Then she reached over and gently touched his hand. Lucas looked down. It was a simple gesture, but it meant something. Thank you. Or maybe trust. They went back to the shelter, this time more careful. The scanner showed no movement, but Lucas stayed alert. Nari walked beside him the whole way, her tail brushing against his leg every few steps. Once inside, he sealed the door. Again, we'll try the come signal tomorrow, he said, sitting down. You were amazing back there. Nari tilted her head, unsure what he meant. You saved us. You heard the drone before I did. She blinked once, then looked down, almost shy. Lucas chuckled softly. Yeah, you're something special. Nari laid down beside him, curling up again. This time her head rested against his arm. She wasn't scared anymore, not with him. Lucas closed his eyes, knowing they still had a long way to go. But for now, they had shelter, food, and something more connection. The sun didn't shine through the broken skies anymore. The colony was always gray, always quiet. But inside the shelter, things felt different. Not warm, but no longer cold. Not safe, but not lonely either. Lucas sat with his back against the wall, holding the broken tablet in his lap. The screen had cracks, but it still worked well enough for drawing and learning. Beside him, Nari watched closely as he drew more symbols. Today he was teaching her words. He wrote water and showed her the bottle. Water, said Nara. Copied him in her soft voice. Water. Then he drew a sun and said, light. She stared for a moment, then repeated, light. Lucas smiled. You're learning fast. Nari's ears moved slightly, showing pride. She pointed at the screen, then at herself. Lucas waited. She tapped her chest. Nari, she said. Yes, Lucas nodded. That's you. She gave him a small smile, now clear and real. It was the first time he'd seen her smile, like that. It made something tighten in his chest. But in a good way. He didn't want her to be afraid anymore. They spent hours practicing simple words. Lucas drew a picture of a tree, then a star, then a planet. Nari added her own marks beside them, small, curved lines and dots. Maybe her language? Or a memory? She tapped one of the dots and said something in her tongue. It sounded like Fainal. Lucas repeated it, though not perfectly. She laughed, covering her mouth. It was a soft, shy laugh. He smiled again. Yeah, I'll work on it. After their lesson, Lucas checked the power cell on the transmitter. It was still holding. The signal they had found yesterday was old, but he believed he could boost it. He connected it to his own comm unit and started adjusting the frequency. Nar watched curiously, sitting beside him with her knees to her chest, tail wrapped around her ankles. If this works, Lucas said, someone might hear us. Maybe a patrol ship, maybe command. Nari tilted her head. Who? Command ship. Lucas looked at her, surprised she had made the connection. Yes, a human ship. Help? He nodded slowly. That's the hope. No. A moment, then looked away. Her ears dropped slightly. Lucas noticed and leaned closer. What is it? He asked gently. Nuri didn't answer right away. She stood up and walked to the far corner of the shelter. There she knelt down and opened a small box she had brought from the other building. Inside were tiny items: a broken necklace, a cloth with a symbol on it, and a drawing. She brought the drawing to Lucas and placed it in his hands. It showed 3 figures, 2 taller ones and 1 small. All of them had cat-like ears and tails. The smallest one had a flower in her hair. Lucas looked at Nari. She touched the smallest figure. "Me," she whispered. Lucas nodded slowly. Then she pointed at the others. "Mother? Father?" Lucas's throat tightened. They were here. Nari nodded once, then hugged her arms around herself. Her ears stayed. Low, her eyes blinking fast like she was holding back tears. Lucas placed the drawing down and gently touched her shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Nari." She didn't cry. Not yet. But she stepped closer and rested her head against his chest. Lucas stayed still, letting her stay there as long as she needed. After a while, she stepped back and pointed at the cum device. "Find them." Lucas wanted to promise yes, but he didn't know. He didn't want to give false hope. "We'll try," he said. "We'll look for them, and if they're out there, we'll find them." Nari nodded again. Her tail brushed lightly against his arm, and she gave a small, hopeful smile. Just then, the scanner beeped. Lucas quickly checked it. Energy spike. Not strong, but close. Someone or something was moving through the ruins again. He stood up and peeked through a crack in the metal door. Nothing yet, but the signal was real. Not a drone this time. It'd be something bigger. "We need to move again," he whispered. "Nar." I didn't argue. She packed her small things into a pouch, slung it over her shoulder, and followed him. They traveled deeper into the colony using old tunnels and service paths. Lucas remembered the layout from colony maps. They reached a tall building that had mostly survived the attack. Lucas led her to the top floor, where they could see the sky, or at least what was left of it. From up there, the clouds seemed heavier, darker. Ships had passed through recently. Their trails cut lines into the gray sky. Nari climbed onto the edge of a broken balcony and looked out. Lucas used a signal booster from his gear and connected it to the cum unit again. "This is emergency channel 7D, he said into the mic. "Survivor reporting. Human engineer and Filari child. Need extraction. Repeat. Need extraction." He sent the signal and waited. No reply. He sent it again. And again. Nayar sat beside him, her eyes on the sky. She whispered a word in her language. Lucas didn't understand it, but it sounded like a prayer. The wind picked up. The scanner stayed quiet. No enemy signals. No replies from allies. "We'll try again tomorrow," Lucas said softly. Nara leaned against him and closed her eyes. Lucas stayed still, watching the clouds and hoping. The colony was still dangerous. Shadows moved where the light did not reach. Lucas knew he could not stay in the shelter much longer. Food and water were running low. They needed to find help or at least a safer place. Nurse sat beside him, her tail wrapped tightly around her legs. Her golden eyes watched the cracks in the wall, alert and curious. Lucas could see the fear still in her gaze, but also something stronger, hope. He packed his bag carefully, making sure to take only what was needed. The transmitter, some food packets, water, and the little things Nari had collected. He stood and looked down at her. "Ready?" he asked softly. Nari nodded. She stood up and stretched, her claws lightly tapping on the floor. They stepped outside the shelter, into the cold gray air. The ruins looked even more broken from the outside. Broken glass, fallen beams, and burnt walls surrounded them. Wind carried distant echoes, faint voices, or perhaps just the ghosts of the past. Lucas checked his scanner. Faint signals were nearby. Not many, but enough to keep him alert. "We should move fast," he said. "If enemy scouts come again, we won't have time to hide." Ari followed closely. Her ears twitched at every sound. She moved silently, like a shadow slipping through the ruins. They crossed the main street where old vehicles lay overturned and rusted. A faded billboard showed an image of a smiling family, the Filari family. The text beneath was unreadable, but the picture told a story of happier days. Nari stopped and touched the billboard gently. Home, she whispered. Lucas nodded. We'll find your home again. They reached a building that looked like a communications hub. Lucas pried open the door and stepped inside. The room was dark, but full of old machines. Wires hung from the ceiling like broken vines. Lucas checked the main terminal. It flickered weakly. He plugged in the transmitter and started repairing the connection. Nari watched him, her tail twitching nervously. Almost there, Lucas muttered. Then the screen glowed. The terminal responded. He sent another distress call. This is emergency channel 7D, he said. Human and Filari survivor. Request immediate extraction. Coordinates attached. No answer. Lucas frowned. Still nothing. Nari walked to a dusty corner and sat down. She pulled out the small drawing she had made, the one with her family. She traced the lines with her claws. We have to keep trying, Lucas said, sitting beside her. Someone will hear us. They stayed for a while, waiting for any sign of response. The sky outside darkened with heavy clouds. A storm was coming. Lucas and Nari prepared to leave. They packed their things and moved out quickly. As they left the building, loud noises echoed through the city. Footsteps, shouting, enemy patrol. Lucas whispered urgently. Hide. They ran toward a nearby alley and crouched behind broken crates. Lucas checked his scanner. Multiple signals were closing in fast. Narder's ears flattened. She looked ready to fight, claws extended. Lucas placed a calming hand on her shoulder. Stay close. Don't make noise. They watched as enemy soldiers marched down the street, their weapons raised. The patrol was searching for survivors. One soldier stopped near their hiding place, shining a flashlight. Lucas held his breath. The light passed over the crates, missing them by inches. After what felt like forever, the patrol moved on. Lucas exhaled slowly. That was too close. Yet. Nari leaned against him, still alert but trusting. We can't keep running forever, Lucas said quietly. We need a plan. Nari looked up and whispered a word in her language. Lucas didn't understand, but the sound was soft and hopeful. He smiled. Okay, we'll find a way. They moved through back alleys and side streets, using Nari's sharp senses to avoid danger. She pointed out weak spots in walls, places to hide, and routes that Lucas would never have noticed. After hours of moving, they found an old safe house. It was small and hidden beneath a fallen billboard. Lucas opened the door and looked inside. It was dusty, but sheltered from the wind. They entered and sealed the door behind them. Lucas pulled out his blanket and wrapped it around Nari. She looked tired, but her eyes still shone with determination. We'll rest here, Lucas said, and tomorrow we try again. Nari nodded, curling up beside him. Lucas looked out through a crack in the wall. The storm had arrived. Rain fell in cold sheets, washing the dust from the city. He hoped it would also wash away the fear. But the war was not over yet. The rain had stopped, but the city still smelled wet and cold. Lucas and Nari woke up slowly in the safe house. The small room felt quiet after the storm, but Lucas knew the danger was still close. He looked at Nari. She was stretching, her tail flicking gently. Her eyes were bright and alert. Lucas smiled softly. Despite everything, she still had a spark inside. Today we need to find food and maybe some answers, Lucas said, standing up and packing their bags again. Nari nodded. Ready to follow? They left the safe house, stepping into the cool morning. The ruins looked different after the rain. Puddles reflected broken buildings and shattered windows. Birds, small and shy, sang in the distance. Lucas checked his scanner. Faint signal blinked nearby. Not a come signal, but something alive. This way, Lucas said, moving toward the signal. Not Ra followed. Moving carefully, they reached a small market district that had been mostly destroyed. Stalls were empty and walls were burned. But in the center, Lucas saw movement. A small group of aliens Filari like Nari were gathered. Some looked hurt, others were scared but alive. Nari's eyes filled with tears. She stepped forward, calling. Out softly in her language, the group noticed her. A tall Filari woman approached. She looked strong, with silver hair and deep eyes. Nari? The woman asked. Nari nodded, running to her. Lucas watched quietly. This was the family he had hoped to find. The woman hugged Nari tightly. "We thought you were lost." Lucas stepped forward. "I'm Lucas. I found Nari. We were both survivors." The woman smiled sadly. "Thank you. We need help." Lucas nodded. "I'll do what I can." The group explained that their colony had been attacked by enemy forces. Many were captured or killed. They had been hiding here, hoping for rescue. Lucas checked his comm device again. "I'm trying to send a message for help, but the signal is weak." The woman looked at Nari. "We can help. There's a hidden transmitter nearby. It might reach your people." Lucas and Nari followed the Falari group through the ruins. They reached an old communications tower, half broken but still standing. Lucas worked on the transmitter, connecting wires and fixing circuits. Nari helped by passing tools. After some time, Lucas sent a strong distress call with new coordinates. "This time someone should hear us," he said hopefully. While they waited, the group shared stories. Nari listened quietly, feeling safe among her own people again. But suddenly the scanner beeped loudly. Lucas checked it. "Enemy patrol incoming," he warned. The group prepared to hide. Lucas and Nari stood together, ready for what might come. Patrol arrived, searching carefully. The Falari had hidden well, using secret paths and tunnels. After tense minutes, patrol left without finding them. Lucas exhaled deeply. That was close. Nari looked at him, eyes shining with gratitude. "We need to stay together," Lucas said, "and keep trying for rescue." The Falari leader nodded. "We have hope now." Lucas smiled. "Hope is the first step." That night, Lucas and Nari sat under a small fire with the Falari group. Nari rested her head on Lucas's shoulder. Feeling safe for the first time in a long while, Lucas looked at the stars through the broken roof. He promised himself he would not let them down. They were survivors, and they would fight to live. The cold night was quiet, except for the soft crackling of the fire. Lucas sat near the flames, looking at the small group of Falari resting around him. Nari lay close, her tail wrapped around his arm. She seemed calm, but Lucas knew the dangers. "We're still near." His comm device beeped suddenly. He looked at the screen, heart pounding a reply. "This is the human fleet. We received your signal. Help is on the way. Hold position and stay safe." Relief flooded Lucas's chest. He looked at Nari, who blinked slowly as if she understood. "Help is coming," he whispered. Hours passed. The group stayed quiet, watching the ruins and listening for any sounds. Then, far above the clouds, bright lights appeared. Ships, they were human. Lucas and the Falari group hurried outside, looking up as the ships moved closer. The rescue was real. The ships landed carefully near the safe house. Soldiers jumped out, moving quickly to secure the area. Lucas stepped forward, holding Nari's hand. "We're here," he said to the captain. "These are survivors." The captain nodded and smiled. "We'll get you all to safety." Nari looked around at the soldiers. Her ears twitched, and she held Lucas's hand tighter. The soldiers helped gather supplies and prepared transport. Lucas stayed close to Nari, whispering calm words. As they boarded the ship, Lucas looked back at the ruined city one last time. It was a place of pain and loss, but also survival and hope. The ship lifted off, flying through the sky. Nari leaned against Lucas, her eyes closing. "You're safe now," he said softly. She opened her eyes and looked at him. "Thank you," she whispered. Lucas smiled. "No, thank you. You taught me courage." The ship traveled through space toward the human homeworld. Lucas and Nari sat together, ready for whatever the future held. They had survived the worst, and now they would build a new life together.